I'm Loren Kling, and this is 5 Things That Changed Your Life. Each episode, I sit down with a special guest and ask them to share 5 stories, events, or experiences that had an impact on their life, like a person who helped them decide a path to take, or a place that completely transformed the way they think. Perhaps it was inspiration from a family road trip or a childhood TV show that helped them to make the person they are today. This week's guest, Kristine Oller.
I help people shift to the next level of success. So I do that with transformational coaching and strategic guidance. So it's sort of like half and half. The big picture perspective, and then we can get down in the details and really like what needs to happen for you to make the change. But really when I say shift to the next level of success, almost everybody wants to shift to the next level of success.
Yeah.
So I like to say something where someone can self-identify of like, oh, that might be me.
Kristine Oller is an award-winning change strategist and author of the book, Feeding Your Focus. Leading by example, she's dedicated to empowering others to bet on themselves and to help them win that bet. Her clients include Oscar nominees, professional athletes, business owners, executives, published authors, performers, including this guy you're listening to, voiceover artists, and a wide variety of up-and-comers ranging in age from their 20s to their 70s. Joining me, as always, is my producer, Alan Ng. How's it going, Alan?
Hey, it's going good. I can't believe it. We made it to 12.
We are on the last episode of our first season of 5 Things That Changed Your Life, and wow, looking back, how does it feel?
Oh, wow. I mean, this was I remember it was a long process. Getting guests was fun at first, and then scheduling was fun. But when we finally got to it, it became fun.
I know that I've certainly gotten more comfortable with having conversations with people and the kind of questions to ask. I think you've been such a tremendous help over the season being a co-host and jumping in to ask great questions that turn the conversations in different directions than I would go.
Doing all 12, it's always true when you do something over and over again, it gets easier and easier. And the one thing that stuck out to me with today's guest, Kristine Oller, was the fact that this felt like the most I wouldn't say perfect recording session, but it felt like it in terms of we went right through it. We had a great discussion, a great time. We went through the 5 points. And then when we were all done, it was like, wow, that was nicely contained into the perfect podcast.
Yeah, Kristine's just got a great sensibility about herself and able to tell stories.
Yeah, and one thing that really struck me about her was she knows herself in the sense of she's and as we talk about it in our discussion, she understood who she was early in life. I mean, I think the first moment we talk about her is her childhood is 5th grade, and that she knew who she was, what she liked, what she wanted to do, and she planned, she connived, she schemed to accomplish what she wanted to do. Because she's so she understands herself so well, she's also able to pass that on to others. And I think that's kind of what you and a lot of our guests over the past few weeks like about her and why they're kind of drawn to her and her group.
I was beyond thrilled to get to interview a mentor of mine and have them come on my show. And she was basically the person that pushed me to do this project. So I owe a lot of it to her. And you too, Alan.
Yeah. Well, I found her to be incredibly fascinating by the time we were done with our discussion. Okay, so what were Kristine's 5 things that changed her life?
All right, number 1, being asked to lead mastermind power groups for the Los Angeles-based Actors Network. Number 2, in 5th grade, deciding that everyone could go themselves because if she had to, she would be her own best friend. Number 3, in 8th grade, purposely throwing her class and their grades under a bus by refusing to do an assignment in history class. Number 4, in 9th grade, becoming a professional actor by missing the 9th grade trip to Yosemite. And number 5, in 11th grade, failing trigonometry and the world did not end. And some good things actually came out of that. So here we go. Here's our conversation with Kristine Oller. Can you explain, like I tell people you're a career strategist and a mentor, which I think paints just enough of a picture for it to gloss, for most people's eyes to gloss over.
Yeah, that's about right. Like, oh,
So
okay.
what is it that you do that will get people's attention to what you do?
Oh, I've never been asked it in that way before. Aside from flashing them, I help people shift to the next level of success. So I do that with transformational coaching and strategic guidance. So it's sort of like half and half. The big picture perspective, and then we can get down in the details and really like what needs to happen for you to make the change. But really, when I say shift to the next level of success, almost everybody wants to shift to the next level of success.
Yeah.
So I like to say something where someone can self-identify of like, oh, that might be me. Okay. And then just let them ask questions.
That's a lot, That's a lot better way than just saying, you're a career strategist.
Well, that means nothing.
Right. Or to say they're a coach, a life coach.
Right.
Well, life coach, you have the connotation of...
Never call me a life coach.
Right. But you have like, like somebody who leads meditations. You always have that, okay, so they sit, cross-legged and they're in a white robe with a beard, etc. There's a lot more to things than...
Yeah. Totally. I have the beard, but the other stuff, no. Yeah. Those terms. I mean, on my website, I officially call myself a change strategist, merely so that I wouldn't call myself a life coach. I was looking for some other phrase that could sort of say what I do, but also be unquantifiable, so they couldn't compare apples. It would have to be apples to oranges if you're comparing me against something rather than apples to apples to apples to apples, because there's a lot of coaches out there.
Got it.
Yeah.
Okay. That's one of the many things that I've learned from you is so many different words and phrases that throw people for a loop. And still to this day, when I ask somebody, can I have 7 minutes of your time? Would you have 23 minutes for a coffee chat? And people don't know how to process that.
It stops their brain.
Which is great.
Great, yeah.
Because in this world of running and 50 billion things in the world, to be able to stop somebody's brain for a minute is wonderful.
Yep.
And powerful, too.
Yeah.
It's very powerful.
Yeah, it's called a pattern interrupt. That's what it
Oh.
is. So it's a verbal pattern interrupt that makes their brain go for just a second, and then you really have their attention.
Yes.
Yeah.
So, welcome to 4 3/4 Things That Change Your Life.
I'm glad to be.
So, I wanted to start off by kind of going over how you and I met, and we've talked about this. So, sometime in 2008, you were leading a free seminar on something called Networking Boot Camp.
It was called, the thing you came to was called How to Ditch Your Day Job. So it was sort of how to get your acting career up and running and earning money so that you can ditch that day job that you're doing to pay the bills.
And I think you held it during the day when most people don't have a day job that they have to worry about missing.
It was
so
during
it was
the day.
perfect for me.
And then after that, you took my networking boot camp. So
Right.
those are the first two.
Right. But what you were most known for, I think, from a lot of fellow actors was something called power groups.
Yes.
So can you explain what power groups are and how they work in the whole world of shifting one's mind?
Because you were a member of the Actors Network,
I
right?
was,
Right.
not in your group, but
Not
I was
in my group.
Right.
Yeah, so back in the day, there was this wonderful organization called the Actors Network, and where actors could physically go to a location and hear people from the industry speak and meet one another and use all the resources that they had. But the core, the heart of the organization were these things called power groups. And it was a group of 30 actors. You joined a group and you met once a month. When I first joined, this is how old my history goes back, it was twice a month and it was mandatory.
Wow.
Every single member had to go, and it had to be twice a month. And you had your big binder and oh my gosh, rules, rules, rules. But anyway, it morphed into once a month, 30 people, and it was 2 hours. Everyone had 3 minutes to talk about their past 30 days activity and their goals for the next 30 days, and then there was issue time. And you know, I as a member was a member and joined one of those power groups.
Right. And you eventually led a power group.
Yeah, so a guy, Kevin E. West, founded the Actors Network, and then he had a co-founder, Paulo Andres. And Kevin ran all the power groups at first, and then Paulo started running the power groups. But then they both got tired of running the power groups, and in the year 2000, they decided to pick 3 members from the organization and train them for a year. That's Kevin.
Wow.
Train it for a year, very thorough, to lead the groups. And it wasn't like we were there to be coaches. We were really there to facilitate the structure of the group and keep things running smoothly and, you know, interface in kind of issues and problems amongst members if there were any of those, you know. Mm-hmm. Yeah, and so then once I graduated from my year of training, I got to lead one, and then eventually I had 2. And then for a while I had 3, and then it went back to 2. But by the end, I had 2 power groups, and they were the only groups with waiting lists. We had a lot of fun.
What do you think it is that made you such an effective and popular power group facilitator?
Well, during that time, what happened, and I ran my power groups for 11 years. And during that time, at first I was just a peer. I was just an actor. And then I started my organizing business. I was a professional organizer for 17 years, and I started during that time. And so as I started my organizing business, and as I started, because what power groups really gave me was, it taught me how to listen. And it taught me how to listen for what you're really asking, not just the question on the surface, but what you're really asking. And it showed me patterns, you know, because I would be around so many actors asking so many questions. I could really see, oh, they're having trouble with this and this. Most actors are having trouble with this and this and this. And then on the side, I'm working with my organizing clients, and they're teaching me, I'm learning how to, you know, get inside their head and figure out how they're relating to their environment and how we can shift that. So I'm really learning over those years how to be a coach, although I didn't know I was learning that at the time. I was just an actor and had this organizing business, and then I led these power groups because it was really fun and I was really good at it. And then over the years, as I just got wiser and more experienced, then my groups, I was really then the coach of the groups. And people were coming to the groups to get my guidance on certain things.
Right.
And, but what I loved about the power groups was that they had their own energy. And it wasn't, sure, I certainly like set the tone and encouraged the energy and held the space for the group, but it was the members helping other members, and the members in my group stayed a long time because they liked what they were getting from it. So they got smarter, they got wiser, they could help people in elevated ways. And then people, you know, would say, oh, you should be in Kristine's group. So their waiting list grew, and that was magic. That's where I learned about the magic of waiting lists, which is that when someone finally got in the group, they were excited to be there. They were like ready to go. They felt, you know, the bar was raised and they wanted to meet the bar. So the group had its own energy after a while where people just showed up to do it, and we would have a lot of fun. And I enjoyed it tremendously. I mean, I wasn't getting paid for any of this, all those 11 years. People are like, wow, you have this business. I'm like, yeah, and I did it for free for like, I don't actually remember. I think it was like 11 years. think it was 11 years I
Wow.
did it.
And then after that, you were asked to lead some private.
Yeah, so finally I was like, okay, I'm going to stop this. This is fine. And I just felt for me it had run its course. And so I said, okay, I'm stopping. And then one of the members of my group was like, yeah, what? Because, huh? What? No. Okay. So what would it take for you to like do this, like for reals? And like, how much would you need to make? What would we have to pay you? And so I sat down with her and we kind of figured it out. We made an invitation list of who we'd want. And the reason I was keen on that idea, even though I did not at the time presume people would want to pay me to continue Power Group, like that was not a presumption I had. But once the idea was, offered to me, I was like, okay. And finally, I would be freed from the constraints of the rules of Power Group. Because by that time, I was like, well, I could do that. I would do this a whole different way. Like I could see ways that this would be much better and more enjoyable for everybody. So then I could make the rules up, and we invited the people we wanted to have in the group. So it was a really great group. And that I started doing that privately. And then I've been doing that for like about 7 years.
Yeah.
Crazy.
And I've been in one of your groups for, I want to say 4-ish years.
Yeah.
And one of the amazing things is the power of lifting everybody else up. And yes, the wait list where people want to get in and sticking through it.
Yeah.
I mean, I've been working with you since 2008-ish, or I've known you for 8 years. And we were talking about, I haven't just gone from point A to point B. I've gone from point A to B to C to D.
Yeah.
And, it's sometimes hard. And I think for an actor or anybody who wants a goal in life, like I want to do this in my life, when you look up and you just see a point at the top of a mountain, you think you'll never get there. But it's if you're able to set up goals along the way, like I think I can climb 100 feet. And then you get to that point and you're like, oh, all right, I think I can climb 150 feet. And then lots of times you fall back down or you give up or you get frustrated, but it's not giving up, which is amazing, is not giving up and always knowing you're just going a little bit further.
Yeah. Yeah, you're what I call an application success story. Because sure, I gave you a lot of great guidance, but had you not applied it over the years? And that's been beautiful to watch, how you have consistently applied these things that you were learning, not just from me, but from other experts and guides and teachers, because we all have many of them. No one is the end-all, be-all. Yeah, so I've loved watching that. But basically, my years... the reason why it's such a moment in my life that changed my life, because when Kevin asked me to be a Power Group facilitator, oh my God, I'm so glad I said yes. Because I was kind of surprised. I was like, who, me? Like, I wasn't one of the members who'd been there the longest or anything. He that's an example of someone seeing something in you that you don't really see in yourself yet. Mm-hmm. And oh my God, thank God he did that. Thank God I had the desire to say, oh, that sounds like fun. But it wasn't like, yes, this is my destiny. It wasn't that feeling. It was like, oh, I'm flattered and I could probably do that. Let's check it out.
Yeah.
So glad, because I learned, that was my 10,000 hours of learning how to listen and discern and coach.
So what about the group? Was it that?
Who are you?
I know.
Oh my God! I thought we were alone, Loren.
What is it about the group that made you come back year after year and not get paid for it? What was the results that you were experiencing?
Well, because I had my organizing business, this was excellent. I looked at this time that I spent there as a marketing investment. Because the more people learned that they liked me and heard that I was an organizer, I got lots and lots of clients from that. That's how that business grew. It grew. My first clients were members of the Actors Network who were just like, oh, organizing, yeah, come over and help me do this. Yeah. So I just looked at it as marketing. And when I decided to leave, it was because I had other ways to market. Like I didn't need that investment of time anymore to do that. But it was so hard. It was a weaning process because first I just stopped one group to give me a little extra time in the month. I mean, it's not much, but when you're really, really busy, every little extra bit counts. But I was like, oh no, which group do I pick? Oh, they're going to be mad that I picked that group, and they'll think I love the other group more than this group. And they're both just different and equal, unique little snowflakes. But it was a Sophie's choice. And it was really hard to step back because I mean, these people have become my friends too. I mean, I was the power group facilitator, but I was still their colleague. Like, we were on the same level. I was still a member of the Actors Network. Like, although I wasn't even acting by the time I left. I was just like, I just like doing this. But I got a lot out of it. It's why I still do it today. It is, I love it. I love it. And I see the results of people coming to a place on a consistent basis that's positive and supports them and starts to shift their mindset. You give me 3 years with a person, just once a month, and sometimes they'll miss certain months, it can change that person's life. And I live for that transformation.
Seeing results.
Yeah. My 3 favorite words in the whole world are before and after. I'll watch a before and after on anything. Oh, we're going to pimp out that car? Great. I like to see it before and after.
Yeah. It's truly amazing to see a lot of people in the groups that I've been in for 4 years stick it out and not give up.
Yeah.
I do sometimes think about the people who are no longer there, but I don't dwell on them. But I do think about, I mean, it just is easy for me to want to give up at any point.
But not everyone who's left has given up, because it's a tool. It's just these groups and these meetings are just a tool. And if you're not using the tool, you don't feel it at this point in your time, or you want to allocate your resources differently.
Right.
Like, I never think of them either in terms of, oh, I wonder how they're doing since they left me. I mean, I think of them as people and lovely people, and we touch base every so often and stuff like that. But, people pass through my life at the point that they're supposed to touch base with me. Sometimes they circle back around, and sometimes not. And sometimes we just become friends, and that's how our relationship continues. But many, I would say the majority of the people who've left these groups have, it's because they started another business, or their career shifted, or they found a different group that really served their needs more. So I think the people who are interested in these groups are people who are interested in having that kind of guidance. So I think they left our group to go on to a different kind of guidance.
Right.
Yeah, they're very active, proactive people.
Yeah. It's been amazing.
Quitters, all quitters. Can you imagine?
I hope they all failed.
Yeah.
This is being recorded.
Oh my God. I love everybody.
So now that we've kind of covered about today and what you do.
Okay.
5th grade.
5th grade.
Deciding that everyone could go and themselves, because if I had to, I would be my own best friend.
Yes,
so
that's great.
So let's go back to the beginning of your analyst skills.
Okay. So I remember this moment so clearly in my mind. I remember exactly where I was. It was recess, and the way the property of our school was, it was like on this land that was tiered. So the building of the school was kind of the top tier, and then you went down this ramp to the first playground, and then you went down another ramp to the second playground. And I remember I was climbing up that first ramp, and I had that thought, but I'll take you back to why I had that thought. So I was not the most popular child throughout all of my schooling years until college. College was good. Huh?
Where was this?
This is Mark Keppel Elementary School, 5th grade.
And where are we talking? What part of?
Glendale, California.
Oh, in Glendale. Okay,
Yeah,
okay.
I'm LA native, still live in the same town. Although I did like to say I went away to college, so I did get out of LA for a while. But anyway, so not the most popular kid, to say the least. And 5th grade was a weird time in our school system, because the previous year in 4th grade, they rearranged kind of like they took some of the students out of our school and said, oh, you can now go to this other elementary school field. So they kind of like reproportioned. And some of my friends in 4th grade left and went to another school. And then in 5th grade, that school closed. And so they came back, but then a whole group of other kids who nobody knew, was integrated into our school. So there was a lot of tumult in 5th grade. And some of the kids that I had been friends with since 1st grade, 2nd grade, 3rd grade, 4th grade, with all this new mix of kids, they were like, I don't know if I want to be friends with you anymore. I'll be friends with more of the popular kids. So it's interesting the way I would always explain it. Once I got in college about my like years in school, is that I was friends with a lot of kids who were popular, but they only wanted to hang out with me one-on-one. They never brought me into the groups and the parties and the thing, but we'd have a great relationship one-on-one. So,
do you have any idea why they liked you?
Well, I think I was fun, and I think that I was, smart and very creative and a fun friend to have. But my mom's from Ireland, like from Ireland. She came over here at 24, so I'm half Irish. And, and I'm the oldest child of 2 girls. So I didn't have an older sister to help me be cool. And my mom was not into the cool. That was not her priority. Don't wear jeans that have a name on it. You don't want to be advertising for the company, that whole thing. And oh my gosh, boots were really in the year before. And then I showed up the next year with boots, and it's like, boots, right? We're all, no one's doing boots anymore. Oh God, oh God, oh God. That was me.
That was a lot of us.
Yeah, and I wasn't particularly like a cute, attractive child. I had my like growing pains. I was cute kind of little, and then and then we got real ugly for a little while. And then I kind of got back together in college with everything putting in its right place. So it was like awkward. But I don't know. I think it's just that alchemy amongst people that you can't really know why you're not. But somehow a lot of people agreed I wasn't. And it had gotten to a point on that particular day. I would take books out to the playground and I would sit and read because no one wanted to play with me. So I was like, fine, I'm going to read a book. And it had been going on kind of on like this and on like this. I don't know what happened that day that was like the tipping point, but I remember that it was. And what I think is interesting about this moment is my reaction wasn't, oh God, woe is me, no, it's my friend. I mean, I had those moments before of like, because you're sad when no one kind of wants to be your friend. Or you see people who are like, behave with you privately one way and then behave with you differently in public. Right. And that's weird. So I'm walking up this ramp and I remember just declaring to myself inside my head, I was like, fine. I didn't say F you then because I didn't start cursing till college because you don't curse. My parents, no cursing. So I thought, oh, bad words. I was a very good girl. I love cursing now. And it's probably just because I wasn't able to for so long. So anyway, walking up the thing. And I was like, fine. It's fine. If nobody in my entire life, for the rest of my life, ever wants to be my friend, I'm going to be my own best friend. And I'm going to be fine with that. And I think that's a really interesting thought for such a young person to have. Because it was really like, fine, I side with me. I don't need, and I'm not going to look. You still, as a kid, you still look for it. You still want it. Mm-hmm. I still wanted everybody to like me, but I was like, if it's not going to happen, I'm not going to let it defeat me. And it was such a seminal moment in my life because it's sort of like, that was my decision. And I had to then live into that decision. And I was like, okay, you've decided. Now you have to be okay with it and find other coping mechanisms and find other ways around this. And here's one of the coping mechanisms that as a young child I figured out. I was like, okay, so, because we'd go out to recess, everybody else would, and I'd be like, oh, here I am all alone. So I was like, the game I created, which is really sad when you think about it, but I wasn't sad when I was doing it. I was like, okay, one of the girls that I just, wanted so bad to be my friend, and she was privately, Jody, I would be on the playground and I would pretend that Jody and I were secret spies. So she had to pretend that she didn't like me. She really liked me, but because we were secret spies on the playground, she was just pretending she didn't like me. But, so I have to keep my distance from her because, so it was like mind games to help me feel like I was connected to my peer group without being that connected.
Like a coping.
Yeah, that was an example of a coping mechanism. But if somebody wanted to get an A on a project, I was on their team. Yeah, oh yeah.
Yeah. Now you make me think of something I haven't thought about. In junior high, I was doing some kind of is it Secret Service that has the little microphone in there? Yeah, in the lapel or in the wrist, and I would do that. And a pen cap would just become my, all right, I'll clear over here in the lunch area. I'll clear over here in the bathroom.
Yeah.
But I think you did it secretly while Lauren, you did it out.
I was like, is that a coping mechanism or just?
Yes, I had 3 shows at 4, 4:15, and 4:45, even though school was over. But it's interesting. We all have different ways of coping when we're kids to get through life.
Yeah, but that really changed me. That really changed me as a person.
Now let's move ahead to junior high, 8th grade.
Oh, junior high, the worst, the worst.
The worst, the worst. Totally. You say, in 8th grade, purposely throwing my group. Yeah, this is a good one. Oh, boy. Mm-hmm. Would you like to apologize to each and every one of you?
Absolutely not.
No? Okay,
oh,
okay.
God, no.
Here, let me read this.
I'm proud of this. This is a big moment.
Better than telling everyone to go f*** themselves. You said, purposely throwing my group and their grades under a bus by refusing to do an assignment in history class.
Yeah, okay. Now, your editorial control over this podcast is not making me seem like a really nice person at the moment. But let me contextualize. So it's funny because one of the last things I just said was like, if people wanted an A on their project, I was their girl. Okay. Yeah, I'm not kidding. That was all through school. So, 8th grade, at this point, now, okay, let me also explain something. In Glendale, the schools that I went to, the elementary school was right next door to the junior high school. And right across the street from those schools was the high school, which is rare to have them all clustered on one block. Right. So, you're walking to school with the same kids like all these years. And then the way our schools were structured is that the gifted and talented kids, the GATE kids as we were called, about in junior high, but you kind of, I think it was 4th grade where they started identifying you and then putting you in special classes, like you'd have I hate to say, like, the smart kids would have a certain teacher for English and then other kids would have other teachers for English. So it was almost like I went to a private school because in all of my classes were the same group of kids. We were kind of segregated out from the mass of the population of junior high, which was a really great way to get an education. So anyway, 8th grade. The kids in 8th grade history class, I'd been in classes with them for years by now. We all knew each other for the most part. We all had history. We knew each other. So a project, go into this group of I think there were 5 of us. Okay, go off into your little corner of the room. And what we were supposed to do is the next day, we were supposed to come in and do a presentation. And so what we were supposed to do in class that day was to gather our points for the presentation collectively as a group, and then, pick someone who would actually give the presentation tomorrow. So we all get in the group, and by 8th grade, people knew I was a really good speaker and liked doing it. You know, the actress, I was the actress. So it's like, so the group was sort of like, okay, Kristine, you should do the presentation. And then I was like, okay, that's fine. I know I'll do a good job, so let me do it, since it's a group grade.
Right.
But then it was like everybody just started talking amongst themselves about whatever they were talking about, and no one wanted to actually do the work. Like, what are the points that you want me to say tomorrow? No. Nobody wanted to work on the project, because I suddenly realized, oh, they just think if they just choose me to give the presentation, that I'll go home tonight, work on it, get everything together, and give a great presentation, because that is what I do. They knew I wanted an A, and I just could see it because they were all talking. I'm like, oh my God, you guys are just gonna like have me get... So I didn't say anything. I was so angry once I realized this. I'm like, oh my God, this is what's going down. So I went home and I thought about it. And the next day, time for my presentation, I got up and got my little piece of paper out, and I basically read this speech of like, everybody in my group just assumed that I was going to come here today and give the presentation, so they didn't want to work at it at all. And so we don't have a presentation because I'm not going to do all the work for the group. And that was such an important moment for me, because it was like, I'm willing to suffer the consequences, because I'm going to get a 0 on this, but I knew that all my other grades that 0 wasn't going to hurt me that much. But I was willing to stand up for something that I thought was absolutely unfair and would go absolutely unnoticed had I given the group presentation. And so I was like, I'm willing to suffer the consequences for something that I think is wrong. I'm willing to stand up for that. And I think, and having that experience so young, 8th grade, to kind of like just do that, I think one of the reasons I was able to do that is I had nothing to lose in popularity. I mean, I had my friends, but it wasn't like, oh, suddenly I'll be unpopular because I was, didn't do the work. Nothing changed there. But it showed me also that I didn't die. It was like, oh, okay. And the teacher's just like, okay. And, but it was like, I'm not going to do the work. And it really showed me that, oh, okay, I can survive that.
Yeah.
So now I knew I can survive being my own best friend, and I can survive standing up for what I think is right. And those were really great things to learn so early in life.
And knowing junior hires, they probably appreciated it, respected you, and then learned a lesson from that whole experience.
I changed the world.
Unless it was an episode of Saved by the Bell,
Right.
Then I don't know if anyone learned the lesson.
No one learned the lesson.
But the reason why Alan and I chose those was...
But let me just say, I didn't do it to teach anybody a lesson.
Of course.
Well, not of course. I mean, I think it was sort of like a big, middle finger to the group, for sure. But it was more just standing up for like, I'm not going to do your work, guys. Let it be known. Yeah.
Right.
So I didn't expect them to like... Because there's a different energy when you're trying to change someone's opinion. And I'm like, they're not going to change. But I'm going to do this anyway for me.
Right. But I think it's one of those things that some people never learn, or they maybe learn in adulthood, is to stand up for yourself, the power to say no.
Right.
The power to say no. There's a book that you have the group reading called Essentialism by Gregory McCown.
I think it's McCone? Something weird. I think
but
it's Scottish.
It's one of those life-changing moments where he teaches you and shows you to be essential in what you want out of life, to say no very easily, and to say yes only when it's very right. Mm-hmm. And
let me just, let me say, I mean, I'm sure my hands were shaking. I'm sure I was super nervous, because that's scary. Like, holy, it's scary to go against your peers. peers that you have to then see the next day and then the next day and then for years to come. So I'm not saying I was Joan of Arc and very like fearless and bold, but even though I was super, super scared and there would be consequences, I did it anyway.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I think there's something interesting in your first story. There's a level of self-esteem you developed, and in here there's integrity that, I mean, we don't teach kids integrity.
Right.
We teach them how to read and how to write.
Right. And I mean, there's so many things. We don't teach kids how to manage money when you get out of school or even in college, or how to, handle professional relationships. There's so many things that in a lot of ways you don't learn until you're well into your adulthood and you've made all your mistakes and you learn it on your own, or you're introduced to books or coaches who open your eyes to those things.
Totally.
But the fact that you learn these events yourself at such a young age.
And what's weird, I mean, I find it even weird to be like, God, how did I do that? Because neither of those two events were done with any kind of adult input.
So another topic that I'm curious about, you had the acting bug.
Yeah, since I came out of the womb.
In junior high, you said in 9th grade you became a professional actor, which meant missing the 9th grade Yosemite trip. So what was this professional gig you booked?
Well, it was at the Glendale Center Theater, which was a beautiful theater. And because it's, it's community theater, but when your community is Los Angeles, it's full of really, really great actors. And I had gone there, to as many shows as I could and seen shows ever since I was little, and always be like, I want to be on that stage one day. I want to be up there. I never liked watching theater. I liked watching theater,
right.
But it was always like, not if there was a part that I could be playing up there. Then it was like, why am I not doing
Was this
that?
something your parents encouraged you to do, or that they were
involved
in?
I wanted to be. They don't know how. They got an actress and a musician. They're like, what's going on? No, they were not part of the business. They didn't know anybody in the business. They were like, you can do whatever you want after you graduate college. That was you doing it. But from a young age, I just gravitated towards acting. I felt what theater did inside me, and I wanted to do that inside other people.
What was it with the feeling?
Oh, just like the emotions and moving, and you could tell people paid attention and applaud. It liked it. It wasn't like I want people to clap for me, but it's like the reason people are clapping is because they enjoyed that. I wanna make people feel happy, that kind of thing. And so I had, I always wanted to be part of that theater. But they mostly did musicals, and I cannot sing. And maybe once or twice in their season of 6 shows, they would have plays. So 2 times a year they would do plays, and only some of those plays would have a role. I mean, I'm in junior high, a kid
right.
role or So finally, there was one show that I got in. I've only done one show there.
Annie?
No,
oh.
I can't sing. No, it was a play.
That's right. Okay.
It was called Life with Father. And I was so excited. And it was a period piece, but I had braces. And that was almost the sticking point of whether the director really wanted me to be in the show or not, because I had braces. And he thankfully, he was like, all right, whatever. And he was so great and so smart, because in the play there's these 4 maids. It's this family, and they keep the joke of the play. One of the jokes is that they keep going through maids. They can't keep a maid. So there were 4 little parts for maids, but this director was so smart, because what he did was he had the 4 actresses, and they were all different ages. I was the youngest. Learn all 4 maids parts, so that each night we would rotate. Each performance would rotate, so we didn't get bored just playing our one tiny little maid part. And then there was all this other stuff that he incorporated into the show for us to do. So it was really lovely. So I was super excited. Oh my God, dreams coming true. And then the rehearsal schedule, right in the middle of the rehearsal schedule, was the trip to Yosemite that every student in advanced science, it was the advanced science class that got to go. So these are all of my peers that I've gone through elementary school all the way. And we're like, oh, we're all going to be able to go to Yosemite together. It's going to be so much fun. You hear how fun it is from the class ahead of you. And it was one of those things, like we also had a 6th grade Big Bear trip. You know, it's one of those things that you are heading towards through all 3 years of junior high. Okay, this is going to be a great trip. And everybody goes. And if you don't go, you have to go to science class for that whole entire week all by yourself and write a report on Yosemite instead of going on a super fun camping trip with all your friends. So I was like, no, I have to go. I'm hanging on to shreds of popularity as it is. I cannot be the only person not to go on the trip. So I was like, I called the director. And I was like, and of course, you know, as an 8th grader, I'm revering this director. I'm like, you know, we have this really special trip and blah, blah, blah. And he basically is like, no, we need you. It was the rehearsal period closer to, you know, when the play would go into production. So it was just like everybody had to be there. We had to run the thing. And he's like, you have to make a choice. And I was like, I mean, that was a hard choice. But I fucking chose to be a professional actress and do the thing that I most wanted to do and stay and be in the play and go to science class every day all alone with the stupid substitute teacher with one. I think there was one. I don't remember. I wasn't alone. So it was like me and the 2 other people who couldn't go for whatever stupid reason. And you're just like, yeah, write the report. But I chose. That was the moment that I was like, well, if you're going to be a professional actress, you're going to miss good stuff. And this is the first good stuff you're going to miss. And I chose. And from, you know, it's the same as the other things. It was a mindset altering choice. And again, I didn't actually realize this when I was making the list. But again, I didn't consult my parents. I'm sure I cried to them about the dilemma. Oh my God, what am I going to do? What am I going to do? They couldn't fix it. And notice how these are my parents too. They didn't call the director. They're like, you can call. You need to call and ask. You need to, you know, this is your thing. You need to. Right. So, yeah. And so it was just a decision that I then had to make. And
these are amazing life decisions that, again, it seems like some people will never discover or might discover as an adult, but you made them, you grew up a lot faster. Did you notice or feel like you grew up a lot faster than your peers in school?
It wasn't, I mean, other kids grow up faster in other ways for different reasons that I didn't have to deal with, luckily, when I was a kid. It's only in hindsight that I really realized, you know, when I started to look back, not for this, but like, you know, look back on life and like, what are those moments where it was like, wow, I just had a huge amount of self-confidence as a child. That just came out with me. It's the wiring. It's not anything that I like did or made. It's just this was me. But I chose in those moments to apply it. And it's interesting because those 3 moments that we've done so far, each of them horribly uncomfortable and painful and a lot of like personal consequences of feeling very, very sad in each one of those, but I gained a lot from them. Like the payoff over the course of my life for having made those 3 decisions has been huge compared to the amount of suffering. But of course, when you're going through it and you're only a kid, you're like, the world is ending. I'm not going on the Yosemite trip. It's going to, plague me forever. And it's really hard when all your friends come back. Now they have inside jokes and references and memories and photographs, and you're not connected. So it was, yet again, here I am on the outside of my peer group looking in. But I got to be on stage.
From there, I'm assuming you did more theater, right?
Yeah, the director was Hal Prince, right?
Yeah, exactly. Well, once they saw the brace, who's the girl with the braces? Bring her back. She's going to be a star.
We have a commercial for her right now.
Yeah. No, my mother was not interested in schlepping me to auditions. I literally put agent at the top of my Christmas list every single year when I was a kid. And she's like, you can do whatever you want after college. I have my own life. I'm not schlepping you around to auditions. And I'm so glad because I was not a cute kid. Like I wasn't a cutie pie kid who would get anything. They would have been like, yeah, I don't know what to do with you. Yeah. So I don't think that would have worked. I did that was my big community theater high level acting experience as a child. But I did little, anything I could, summer theater camp for 2 weeks and we do a play at the end. Yes. Anything that Parks and Rec were offering. Okay. I was in it, any little thing I could get my hands on.
Okay, so you still got to do things that had meaning.
Oh yeah, and I was, checking albums out from the Brand Library and memorizing the librettos of all these musicals, even though I couldn't sing, and studying television, breaking, because I'm an analyst,
right?
Breaking down comedy. How does that work? Why is that funny? Doing plays in my living room with the neighborhood kids so I could be the bossy director. So I did anything I could get my hands on. I mean, I wanted this so bad.
Wow.
Yeah, so I did anything.
Interesting.
Yeah.
All right, in high school, 11th grade, you failed trigonometry by getting an F, and the world didn't end.
Yes. So I think this was one of the most important moments of my entire life. And there's actually two components to this. So I mentioned, in fourth grade, you're indicated, gifted and talented. So you're kind of advanced. And in junior high, what that meant is we meaning the group of kids, we all kind of skipped ahead a year. But we skipped ahead a year in English and math. I'm not a year ahead good in math. I'm a year ahead good in English and all things verbal and written. Not so much math. So I quickly understood by algebra that I'm like, oh yeah, I don't think I should be here. This is not computing with my brain. But I'm a straight A student. And not necessarily certainly not because my parents drove me. No. In my house, back in the day, our report cards used to be a letter grade and then E for effort, excellent, satisfactory, or poor.
Unsatisfactory, yeah.
So as long as I got all E's in effort, top effort, my parents didn't care what my grades were. They're like, you need to put your maximum effort. They would hate for me to skate by and get an A. Then, it's if you can get an A, we want you to get the best A your maximum effort can get. So they just wanted me to try hard, which was a very sane way, except for a person who naturally tries hard, it's okay, try hard, really hard. Maximum effort, which I had to learn to unwind from in my adult years. But so I was like, okay, algebra. I clawed my way through algebra. Okay, geometry. Okay, now we're shapes and things and I don't understand. Okay, geometry. And then you had the one after geometry was an advanced algebra for half a year. And then trigonometry. And this was the first time in any academic subject where because I think I was able to eke out B's in math until then. But this trigonometry, my brain was like, no. We also had a teacher who suffered from PTSD before anybody really knew. He'd been in Vietnam, and when there were loud noises, he would run out of the classroom or duck under the desk and then yell at, he was crazy, Mr. Dennis. He was sadly, poor man, insane. So that wasn't a good learning environment, but nonetheless, I was totally out of my depth. So, like any good parents, they hired me a tutor. Marty Adams. Love Marty Adams. So Marty Adams was this awesome, fun, like 20-year-old dude who I'd known my whole life through church and everything. And so had a couple tutoring sessions, and I'm like, Marty, I'm not going to get this. But you know what I really need tutoring in? Boys. How about we just put this trigonometry stuff aside and just, tell me about, like, how do I do with boys and the thing. So literally, after about 3 or 4 sessions, I kept going to tutoring, and my parents kept paying him, but unbeknownst to them, I was actually getting tutored in boys, which was great and helped me so much more.
Wait. I am looking at your list that you gave me, and nowhere do I see any mention. I just see, I got an F failing.
No, this is part of this is a 2-parter. You get 2 for 1 on this.
Okay.
So part of the life-changing thing was that I made the decision, why suffer through tutoring in trigonometry when here's this resource that could be better used to give me information that I actually need in my real life? So that was smart. That was a good strategic decision and use of my time. I'm very proud of that, but that's sort of the minor part of the story. So I didn't understand trigonometry, and I wasn't getting tutored in trigonometry. So I got an F. And to a really good girl who had been very good in school and who things had come fairly naturally, easily, except for math, but I still was able to claw my way through a B. People who got Fs. The dregs of society. Damaged people got Fs. Can't you at least get a D? And can't you pass? I get an F. And for me to get an F, it was outside of my sphere of understanding how that could compute in my life. And then what would my parents say? And then what would my friends say? Because getting an F, you're no longer in the California Scholarship Federation. And you cannot wear the yellow cord at graduation. And all those kids sit in a separate area. And once again, I will be removed from my peer group and have to sit with the regular hoi polloi at graduation. And I thought, God, anyone who gets an F is, I was really judgmental, snobbery, arrogant at that time. And it was just like, so I had all these, judgments on people who got Fs. And then I also thought my world would end. Black mark, permanent record. How could I possibly get into college? So that's a very rigid, judgmental way of thinking. And honestly, if I had been good in math and had gotten a B in trigonometry or an A, I would have gone into college with that rigidity of thought of like, oh no, you have to get A's, or for your life to work out, you have to get A's. And that theory dissolved because life went on. Because I got an F in 11th grade. And it was like, 12th grade was great. Okay. And nobody knew that I got an F. Nobody knew that I had failed trigonometry until we were at graduation. They're like, why don't you have the yellow cord? And I'm like, oh, yeah, I got an F in trig. That's when I told people.
Wow.
I'm not going to advertise it, but,
And you'll never see them again.
Oh, no, they're my good friends, good friends. We've gone to school together for 12 years, literally in our own little class. We're still quite tight, some of us. But I'm so glad that preconception was shattered that early in my life, because I think my college years would have been different. Like, I went to college going, grades, they matter, but they don't matter. Nobody has ever asked me what my high school GPA was, what I got on the SATs, and they barely even ask what I got my college degree in. Like, it's not, you think in high school that these are the big questions and these are the things you needed to have, and it's like they're meaningless by 1 year out of college.
Yeah.
Do you have a degree? Good. Great. It could be in anything. Yeah. So that freed me up, because the world didn't open up and swallow me, which is what I thought would happen. And I was like, oh. So what it really taught me was there was a lot of things that I probably thought that weren't true. It was like, oh, I wonder what else I'm thinking is true that's not true. And that's a really interesting perspective shift when your life is like, whoa, what you're thinking is not necessarily true. So let's start questioning a lot more.
Right.
Yeah.
And it's amazing. Again, it's those things you learn in life that are so freeing. It's weird. I don't know if I'm weird to say that I'm so glad to be a middle-aged adult. I am so glad because I'm hearing your stories and feeling the same things you felt, and going, you know what? I am so glad that my brain is free of these things that I had as a child and as a young adult for so many years that I would not want to go back at all.
You could not pay me. You can't pay me to go back a year. It's like, no. But here's what's interesting is, at least to me, it's what's interesting to me, is that had I not had the confidence building that I had in these other things that we've talked about tonight, I think had I got the F, it would have carried more shame. Oh God, I got an F. People will see that on me, the scarlet letter. But by then, I had already, tanked an assignment. It was like, this is just a bigger example of that 8th grade thing. There'll be consequences, but I'll survive because I survived then. I'll survive here. It's just kind of a bigger playing field. But I think had I not had that 8th grade experience, I may have carried shame unnecessarily. So thank God I really didn't have a lot of shame. I was just like, okay, well, that happened. And I made the decision to get the F. When I stopped the tutoring for the math early in the semester is when I made the decision of like, well, I'll take the F because I'd rather have this information.
Right. So you got an F in trig. What did you get in boys?
Oh, C- until.
So it was well worth it.
Well, no, I have to say that I probably got an A because I met my husband my freshman year of college. So I saw a good one, and I was like, all right.
Did you secretly thank Marty Adams for?
No, I mean, Marty Adams let me go through my senior year of high school. Okay. I got my first boyfriend my senior year of high school. It was just sort of like, what he did was just demystify a lot of stuff. It was like, oh, boys think like this and da. So it was like, oh, okay.
He wasn't hiding in the bushes with the walkie-talkie,
no.
secretly telling
he
you.
wasn't coaching me. He was just sort of like, oh, this is how it is, and this is how it is in college. And it was like, oh, because I don't have an older sister or brother to tell me any of this.
Right.
And my parents are not... I love you, but they're not the cool parents.
Right.
They don't have all this stuff to tell me.
I find it interesting that your formative years of life, your big points are the times you bucked the norms of society. The standards that schooling and life forces on everyone else, and it's these moments that you said, I'm not going to follow the norms and I'm going to do what I want, and you came out better for it. In a way, some way we got to teach kids to do this too. Stand up for yourself, It's hard to, and I think parents face this challenge. It's really difficult to develop confidence, to help someone develop their confidence if they're not wired naturally to have confidence. It's a long process, and I think it goes well into the adult years for people who are not naturally confident to build that up. I think that if a kid is kind of wired for confidence, it's easier to nurture that. I think I kind of came out of the womb confident. and then I got so, because I was good at things, because of the way my mind is wired, I got reinforced from a very early age. Oh, you're smart. You're good at this. Lots and lots and lots of positive encouragement from parents, every single teacher, exception of a few, just, oh, yes, you are good at this. So I had heard that, and I agreed. And then the results, kind of bore out to where it's like, oh, okay, I guess this is me. However, it did make me arrogant and judgmental
because things came really easy to me, and I don't understand why it doesn't come easy for you. Maybe you should work harder or put some more effort into it. That's really what I unraveled in my 20s was my judgment, and really learning of okay, there's lots of factors that go into everything, and a lot of the qualities that let me excel in. And school is just a stupid system. And I mean, it is not made for everybody. I have a brain that can figure out school and figure out teachers and figure out what they want and deliver and be the best.
And going full circle, as a change strategist, getting somebody to the next level makes so much sense because everybody's at their own level. And you're just helping a person get to their next level.
That's right. That's all any of us do. We try to get to our next level. And when it chips away at your spirit if you think there's the next level, like an exterior next level in our society, which America as a country loves to point out what the levels are. You're not there yet. You're not there yet. You're not there.
Right.
But you need to remove that and just go, what's my next level? What do I want? And how do I need to grow to get there? Yeah.
Kristine Oller, thank you so much.
Thank you for letting me come here and ramble, my favorite thing to do. Talk about myself.
My thanks, as always, to my co-host and producer, Alan Ng, and to this episode's guest, Kristine Oller. You can find Kristine over at her website, KristineOller.com, where you can sign up for her free weekly 90-second Golden Nugget videos. That's Kristine Oller, KristineOller.com. And if you're a performer, definitely check out her other website, theactorslibrary.com. She's collected all of her very best career guidance and resources for you to check out for free. Thank you also to our sound engineer, Sammy Junio, of the Hello Lionface Podcast Network. Music by My Monthly Date. Subscribe to 5 Things That Changed Your Life on iTunes, Google Play, Stitcher, or your favorite podcast service. And go ahead and leave us a nice review if you'd like. You can follow us online at 5thingspodcast.com or on Facebook at facebook.com/5thingspodcast, that's FIVE, or on Twitter at 5thingspod, that's FIVEPOD. For 5 Things That Changed Your Life, I'm Loren Kling.